Welcome to our Career Talks discussion with Frank Seringa, the creator of Why They Make Millions, which is based on interviewing 95 extremely successful people. With that said, let's get started.
Okay, thank you, Robert. College graduate. My first job out of college was teaching at an all-girls private all-girls school there in Newport, Rhode Island, and I did that for 3 years. And at the end of my third year of teaching, I had a wife, a daughter, and a house, and I could only afford one. Well, that didn't work out. So I was, and this is again, and I like to relate the story. You'll know how old I am. I was in a teacher's lounge at the school, and I had bills piling up. I just wasn't. And a teacher was a smoker this time when you could smoke at the teacher's lounge, and she left her book of matches on the thing, and I read it, and on the cover it said "Make a lot of money." I said, "Damn, it's a sign from heaven. Like I want to make more money." And it said, "Get into computers." So I quit teaching and went as a computer programmer trainee for Retina Insurance, and then from there went into systems management and realized I didn't like salary. So I got a job as a sales trainee for a software company out of Atlanta. I was living in Boston, and did that for a number of years, and then went and raised money for companies in Singapore and India. And now I'm back here in California, finally doing what I should have been doing for the last X amount of years. Yeah.
It's interesting. One thing I've often thought for myself was that it would have been very beneficial to have some sales experience someplace in my career. Do you think having sales experience really helped shape your outlook?
I had no sales experience when I was a trainee. I got hired by a company that I was a manager of systems for a distributor here in Boston, and we engaged a software company of Atlanta to do a job for us, and I was in charge of the project. And I flew down to Atlanta to review the progress, and there wasn't any progress, not to my satisfaction. And they were renting computer time that ended at midnight. At midnight, I mean, here I am in Atlanta. And I looked at the project team and I said, I don't know who you have to call, but we're not leaving here. Rent another 8 hours because I'm flying back tomorrow at noon and I can't go back with the progress that we haven't made. So they had to call the owner of the company and so forth, and they got permission. And 8 o'clock, our computer time stopped. And I remember I drove to the office of the software company, stormed into the chairman's office and did one of these numbers, which was, I was tired. I should have done that. And I said, and I went on how this wasn't there, and I was very upset. And he says, "We'll take care of it," and they did. And he never forgot that. 2 years later, he called and says, "Frank, this is Tom from Atlanta." I said, "Oh, hi." We hadn't spoken in 2 years since the project ended. He says, "I'd like to come work for me. We're hiring salespeople." I says, "Well, two things. Number one, I'm not moving to Atlanta. I live here in Boston. And number two, I've never sold anything in my life." He says, "You can live in Boston and I'll teach you how to sell. And I'll give you a $2,000 raise." Whoa,
Oh,
money. How much that was back then. Anyway, so that was and I loved selling for two reasons. Number one, I could make as much money as I was on commission plus a base salary. I could make as much money as my talents allowed me to make. And I was pretty much left alone being working remotely here in Boston with everybody else living in Atlanta. So I love those two aspects of it. And I traveled a lot. So yeah. So sales was good back then. I think sales today is awful. It's awful. It changed when this thing came out, the smartphone in 2007. And that's a whole nother discussion. In fact, I teach people today, entrepreneurs, how to grow a business without selling. And I'll just give you I think I got your attention, didn't I?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. People don't want to be sold. They don't want to be sold. I don't want to be sold. I hate being sold. Most people hate being sold, and it's so damn obvious when you're being sold. People are not looking for salespeople. They're looking for leaders. Tell me that you can get me to where I want to go, and don't sound like you're trying to sell me a used car. I will follow you anywhere. But again, we can have a whole nother discussion about that. But anyway, so yes, selling helped me get out of my shell, and helped me grow as a person, and as an employee, and then eventually as an employer. Um, you need the ability to communicate and to lead. Don't sell. Don't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People will follow a leader to the end of the world. They'll run away from a salesman.
Yeah, I've heard it said that historically, the salespeople job was basically educating the uh, prospects about what their products are. And nowadays, as you held up the smartphone before, it's basically people are educating themselves first, and only
Mhm.
coming to you after they already have their mind pretty much made up.
Yeah, I remember my first trip, going back to the software company that I was working for, based out of Atlanta. They gave me a bunch of books to study, and I was studying this stuff, and they said, okay, you're gonna give your first seminar. I said, okay, I've never done this. I said, okay. He says, yeah, meet me in New York City. So I remember I walked into the New York Hilton in Manhattan, and there were about 108 executives there, and they wanted to learn about. I was teaching inventory management and sales forecasting was what I was teaching, and uh, and they had no other place to go. They could either read manuals, which nobody wanted to read back then because they're still boring today, or they could go and get a free lunch and listen to this guy, okay, talk about the formulas for how to forecast sales and that type. Anyway, but that was my first thing. And the point is that today they don't talk to Frank; they go right to the cell phone
Yep.
and get all the information you want. What they want to know is, what are you going to do for me? I know what your software does. In fact, I even know what your customers say about you. I know what you charged the last company you sold to. What are you going to do for me? And what we do, well, what I did and what we did is, as successfully as a company, is that we led them to where they wanted to be. People will give you money for only two reasons. That's only two reasons. I don't care where you are or what you're doing. Number one, you can eliminate a problem they have but they do not want. Or number two, you can give them a result they want but do not have. If you can do one of those two things, and I believe you and you're trustworthy and you're knowledgeable and you're not a jerk, I'll give you money because you satisfy what I want or what I don't want. I don't want this problem, but I'd like to have that result. Yes, I'll give you money.
Nice way to keep it focused.
Keep it focused. When I train people, I tell them, when you're preparing, you look in the mirror. You've got to know what you're talking about. And I use the mirror analogy. I says, when you're meeting with a prospect, or you're networking, or you're talking to someone at a line in Starbucks, okay? You're looking out a window. So what does that mean? I says, when you're preparing, it's all about you. When you're talking to somebody else, it's all about them. There is no mirror. It's a window. Look at them, because that's who you're going to satisfy. So those are the analogies I use. That's a long answer to a very short question, Robin. I'm sorry about that. That was a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. But anyway, no, and I live this stuff. I live this stuff. I love it.
And so I assume that background feeds into what you're doing today.
Yeah. What I'm doing today is I spent the last 4 years studying. In fact, you were on our podcast. Myself and some other people do a podcast, and we've done it for about 4 years, and we talk about how to start a business, how to grow a business, and I found that very boring. Again, I can go here. Tell me something I don't know. Okay, so what I did is I started looking for people like you and I. Let's talk about you, because I'm looking at you right now. You and I says, you know what? How can 100 Roberts and Franks try to start a business and only one or two of us makes money and 98, 99 of us don't? I says, why? Doesn't make it, because we're smart guys. We work very hard. Okay, the effort is no problem. The intelligence is not there. The desire is always there. I mean, we have everything they have. Why do they make millions and we don't? And I studied it, and I reported on 95 different people regular everyday people, people that could be your neighbor, people that could stand in line with you at your coffee shop or checkout line, or people who are having dinner with you at your local next table next to you at the local restaurant. They're just regular people. What do they do that allows them to make millions when most of 98 to 99% of them don't? And I started researching it, and I did 95 different people from all walks of life. I'll get an example. A lady who was a student at Harvard Business School, okay, who quit school in the middle of Harvard Business School, getting her MBA to do something. A pregnant mom, she had one child at the time, living in a homeless shelter. Why does she, you know, how come she made money? And I studied it, and I put down, because I was a math teacher, I put down spreadsheets and Excels, and I looked at the characteristics and their education, and I found out things in common that they did. And I wish I knew this 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. I've learned it. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting together a community website called Why They Make Millions and You Don't. And I'm teaching this. I'll be teaching this to people younger than me who want to do what they want to do. And after talking to you about a month ago, I guess it was, the methodology that they use can also be used to grow your career. Maybe you never want to be an employer. You always want to sign the back of the check. Awesome. How do you go from where you are up the ladder where you get more responsibility and a lot more money, if that's what you want to do? It's the same principles apply. The same principles apply. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Sounds like a lot of people will be looking forward for that.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited, extremely excited about it. Yeah. Matter of fact, so excited, as my wife will tell you, I do this 7 days a week, what I'm working on right now. I was working on it before you called. When we get off this call, I'll be working on it again. I'm obsessed with it. I can't get enough of it.
Excellent.
So that's what I'm doing. Okay.
Do you have an estimated timeline of when you expect it to be available?
Yeah, last year, and obviously I'm a little late. I have this problem. I have this bad habit called perfection. You know, good enough is never good enough. Well, good enough. If good enough has to be good enough, because I'll take it with me to my grave, and no one will ever learn what I learned, and that's stupid. So in fact, that's what I'm working on right now. The projects I'm working on. Way to describe my thing. I never do things the way most people do it, because I find that boring. I like to do things using stuff like this, hand-drawn pictures, to get my point across. And in fact, I did that when I was a teacher. You know, we had prescribed textbooks, and I used that for a guide. But I always did my own lessons on the board. You know, I get bored very easily. So, and so would my students.
And I think that's a great segue to what we said at the beginning as to what you would like to talk about today. And part of it is giving advice to people how to do things a little bit differently.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about that. And so you did let me know we were going to do this. So I had a chance to think about it. And I like to classify. There's two groups of employees. There are workers, and there are leaders. Both are extremely important, and both will do very, very well. A worker is very happy coming in, doing his or her time at work, maybe working a little bit of overtime, maybe working a lot of overtime. And they just want to be given the task, let me know what the rules are, and I'm going to do the best job I can. That is awesome. I can't do that. I have a hard time with that. Maybe it's ADD, I guess. I get bored with that. Everybody starts off as a worker, okay? And I started when I was a computer programmer trainee at Aetna Insurance. Okay, remember I said when I left teaching, that was my first job. There were like 300 of us in the basement of Aetna Insurance in Hartford, Connecticut. You don't, I mean, there is nothing lower than that building because we were in the basement, okay? So, but also as a career-wise, but now I'm not complaining. That's the price you paid to get up that ladder, okay, which was fine. And when we had, with computer program, you had to follow rules. And if you didn't follow the rule, your program failed. That's how rules oriented, which is fine. And I had, okay, and I did okay with that. But I knew then, because that was my first job after being a teacher, where I was my own boss. I said, "Ooh, I don't like doing what everybody else does." I so what I learned and what I did back then, and I know in spades today, is learn as much as you can, and then learn a little bit more. Why? Because it gives you the edge. Every employer who has employee who wants to grow his or her business is always looking for people to help them grow their business. Workers help them maintain the business and keep customers satisfied. Leaders manage these people to make sure that we have customer base and have our revenue base to make sure we pay our bills. But leaders show how to grow revenues, how to increase market share, how to open up new markets. And you do that by knowledge, which means you've got to learn. Okay, you can put $1 under your mattress, or you can put $1 in an IRA account. In 50 years, you'll have a lot more in that IRA account than you'll have under your mattress. Okay, you got to make it work. You've got to work. There's no I don't know any shortcuts. You've got to work. Work and learn. Learn and think. Think and challenge. Challenge and experiment. Experiment and succeed. Experiment and fail, but learn and keep going. So if I was starting off in the market, in the job market today, and I decided I was going to be a worker, which I did, and I was, I would get a place where, number one, I did this with I have two daughters. One of my daughters changed companies about a year and a half ago, and we were going through a thing, and she was going to move. She was living in Boston. Now she lives in the Northwest here of the United States. And she was giving me some advice. She said, well, so what should I be looking for? I said, well, whatever job you take, it's got to be a job that you can contribute, but it's got to be a two-way street. They have to contribute to me. She says, well, what does that mean? And I called it the 3 R's. I said, you've got to ensure, and I don't care what you have to do to find this out, but that you will have these 3 R's satisfied if you decide to work for this company. Well, obviously that, and I was leading it to say, Dad, what are the 3 R's? I'm glad you asked. Okay. Number one, you've got to be recognized for your work, because I know what kind of work. She's a hard worker, and we have a lot in common. I said, you don't mind doing a lot of work, but you want to get some credit for it. So you want to be recognized for being a contributor. Okay. You've got to do that. Okay. And they've got to recognize, if they're going to give credit to everybody else, then you're not getting the recognition you deserve. Number two, you've got to get rewarded for your contribution. Okay. You want to get her paid. Now, when she's not in sales, she's in a salary position with a bonus thing. I said, contribute, get recognized, contribute. But the more you contribute, the more you should be rewarded. Okay. So it's recognition, reward. I said, and the third one's the most important. And I wanted to get anxious. I said, respect. I said, you've got to be respected by your bosses and your company and your peers. And they said, well, Dad, everybody likes me. And I said, okay. And I was so glad you said that. I said, if you want a friend, get a dog. You want to progress in business, get respect. You can be liked, but you can be liked and be disrespected. I said, get respected. And how do you get respected? By being a contributor, by being someone who's looking for the growth of the company. Every employer wants to grow their company. There's no standing still anymore. Companies who stand still fall, by the way, they lose. Okay. They're looking for leaders so they can do other things, whether it's and now she works for $1.5 billion company as a senior director. And she's a contributor, and she's got the 3 R's. She's rewarded, she's recognized, and she's respected. So yep. Those are 3 things.
I've definitely seen that in my own life. You hear so many times where someone's not progressing in their career, and people say, "Oh, he's such a nice person. He's such a nice guy. Everybody loves him, but he's not moving ahead." And then people talk about the senior managers, and it's like, "Oh, well, we respect so and so."
Well, and I like, I have a great that's a good analogy. It's made me think of one. I'm a boss of a corporation or a department. I don't care what it is, and I've got a problem with something that should have been done right but wasn't done right. And so, who am I going to give it to? Well, I can give it to Frank. Frank's a good guy. Everybody likes Frank. He's a good worker. Frank will follow the rules and do it done. I have another problem. Man, we got an issue here. Our revenue is just not growing. We need to come up with a new way of doing things. Well, I can give it to Frank, but he just does everything the normal way. I can give it to Robert. Robert's an outside-the-box thinker. Maybe he can come up with something. Let's give Robert, I'll give him this assignment. I'm not going to give it to the worker. I'm going to give it to the leader.
Yep. And those are the opportunities that let you advance in your career.
Leaders do their job. They do it so well that they get recognized, they get rewarded, and they get respected. But they also challenge the status quo and always looking to improve things, to get to either eliminate a problem that the company has that they don't want, or to come up with a result the company wants but do not have. And that takes work, and it takes effort, and it takes fun. You know, I want to make sure, let's go back to what about careers. When is it time to change industries? When is it time to change your job? Okay. If you're not getting the 3 R's, it's definitely time, especially the respect one. If you're not getting respected, get the hell out of there. Okay. You're too special. You're too important to not to be respected. Okay. They may love you. They may love having beers with you, but if they're not respecting you, get out. Or the second time is when you're home on a Sunday. Oh crap! Tomorrow's Monday. I got to go to work. Probably time to start thinking about doing something else. Life is too damn short. And everybody has a special gift. Everybody. So everybody has a skill. Find your skill, find your passion, find your love. And I have an exercise that shows you how to find what you should be doing. Here's the 3 circles. Number 1, something you love doing, you would do it for free. Matter of fact, you do it for free because that's what I do. You know, on weekends, you're doing this because you love it. Number 2, you're good at it. Okay. Number 3, people are willing to pay you for it. You can love doing it. Drawing. I mean, look at these drawings are terrible. Okay, drawing. People would pay me for it, but I'm not very good at it. Okay, that's called a temporary junk, or they're going to fire you because you're not very good at it. You can have the other circle, which means I'm very good at it, and people pay for it, like I was in sales. I hate selling. Okay, you know what I call that? I'm good at it, and people pay me, but I don't enjoy it. That's called a job. Right? Or there's another one where you love doing it, you're very good at it, okay, but people aren't willing to pay you. That's called a hobby. Hobbies don't pay bills, okay? Revenue pays bills. So when you have all 3, you're really good at it, you love doing it, you would do it for free, and people are willing to pay you, that's what I call the trifecta. That's your sweet spot. And by the way, your sweet spot changes as you get older, as you become more aware and more experienced. You know what? I really thought I was going to love that thing, but after doing it for a while, I don't like it at all. This really sucks. Super! Number 1, congratulations that you found that. Now let's sit down and talk. Let's draw the 3 circles, and let's find out what you should be doing today. And that's good. That's good. Once you're in that trifecta thing I talk about, the 3 circles, once you're in there, you can't leave it. Your mind says, Robert, this is what you were meant to do. Let's do this. You know, there's a book I'm looking, well, it's not, that's where I had it, called Ink You or Brand You or something. Every employee is their own boss because you can be fired just like that.
Yep. Okay,
and so you're going to treat it as your own company. You are your own company. I did that when I was a programmer trainee at Aetna. I did that when I was the software sales guy at the Atlanta-based company. Contribute because you want to help out because that's how you get ahead. But also you're improving yourself, improving your career, and improving your value, improving your worth to other companies in case something happens. Don't be married to your first company either, because when times get tough, you're an employee. I'm doing a lesson right now. Well, this thing that I'm looking here, the thing I'm doing here is the lesson is called the genius myth. Genius myth, not Smith, myth. Everyone thinks that you've got to be an Einstein or a Steve Jobs or a Jeff Bezos to start your own company. Well, that's not true. You've got to be the smartest guy in the world. You don't have to be Steve Jobs. You don't have to be an Albert Einstein. You just got to have an idea and the willingness and desire and follow your calling. Follow your calling. You're put on here for a reason. Too many of us take that reason with us to the grave. Brian and Kat and everybody else found their calling, found their reason, and they've been rewarded for it. And that's good. And these are just regular people that'll sit at the table next to you tonight when you and your wife go out to dinner. And you don't even know that.
It seems like there's a lot of ideas, but without the follow through, they're just an idea.
Yeah, here we go. See this picture right here? There you go. This one right here.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between this guy who was down and the next picture and another thing is a guy who's successful. One word: action. Okay. An idea without any action is just that, an idea. An idea with action may result in results, and results is what pay the bills. Action. And by the way, and I tell this, I gave a talk the other day when meetings I was at. I said, people I talk to, everybody's looking for that Viagra, the blue pill. I take it and an hour later, I am ready to go. That's not the way small business works. It's a lot of hard work. Okay. That's why if you're doing what you're calling, or that trifecta thing in the 3 circles, if you're doing that, it's not work. You would do it for free anyway, because it's what you were meant to do. So, and failure is just another step. Anyway, there we go. Yes.
Other examples you see that you think we should share with people of taking a contrarian approach?
Yeah, when everybody goes left, you go right. I just there's a series just started right now. State Street Bank I did with Elizabeth Banks. It's called Crazy Enough to Work. It's a little video cast, like 10, 12-minute long. It's available only on the internet. And one of the guys, one guy is from Samuel Adams Beer, how he started and so forth. Another guy did something else, and Elizabeth said to the owner, the founder, said, "Why are you successful?" Kind of the question I asked. Why do you make millions and most people don't? He says, "Because when everybody zigs, I sag." Jerry says, "I'm not going to charge $1 for a hamburger. I'm going to charge $4 to $5 for a hamburger." Okay, that was the Five Guys guy. Okay, Brian Scudamore says, "I'm going to pick up people's junk. I'm going to have clean trucks and professional men in uniforms." Okay, that type of thing. So there's look, and I tell this to my entrepreneurs who want to grow their business or want to start a business, and I tell it to people who are working for a company and want to be leaders. Find a problem that your company has but they don't want and solve it. You'll be a hero. And how do you solve it? By playing, and I have a thing I teach how to called the what if game. What if we did this? What if we did that? And you throw out all the rules. I want to mention 3 companies. Invisalign, you know those people out with the braces, the brace people, Invisalign. Right. Uber and Airbnb, you know those things. The people who founded Invisalign were not dentists. The people who started Uber were never in the taxi business. The people who started Airbnb were never in the hotel business. They just found a problem and solved it. Find a problem at your company, solve it. Solve it. You will be recognized, and you will be promoted and rewarded and recognized and respected. Find a problem and solve it. Every company has problems. Whatever department you go to work in, whether it be in the C-suite or the shipping dock, has a problem. Solve it. Don't accept it. And there's no such thing as utopia, so there's always a problem. Yep. And you know what? If while the problems are going, you don't know what's left. Results. Get them a result that they want, but they don't have. Get them a result. They'll love you. That's what I did in sales. My job was always to increase the revenues for the company, and we did. And I got rewarded for it, which was good. And I like doing it then. I couldn't handle doing that today. I don't want to do that today.
Yeah.
I won't do it today.
Other little piece of insight related to that I've seen and shared with people over my career is people who complain tend to use up their energy in the act of complaining. The people who keep quiet are the people who do something about it.
Yes, 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 yes. And by the way, and you know, those 95 people, a lot of them were introverts. Katrina, she never wanted a spotlight. Never wanted to be the boss. She had no choice because of her calling with the retail thing. You don't have to be an introvert. You just have to care. You just have to be passionate. You just have to invest in yourself. Contribute, solve a problem, give them a result, that type of thing we talked about. Your career will take off. Leaders are the last ones to be let go.
So this has been fantastic. Really appreciate
Okay.
all your insights. Since we only have a few minutes left, are there other points you wish you had made that you have not had the opportunity to make yet?
No, just care about your future. Care about the future of who you're working for at the time. If you make sure you take care of them and they take care of you, that's a great match. If you take care of them and they don't take care of you, get out. Go someplace else. You know, you're too good, you're too valuable, you're too special to not to be recognized, rewarded, and respected. Those are the 3 R's. Get those and you're okay.